Today we're diving into something truly profound. It's a single, incredible idea that seems to echo through thousands of years of human history. A vision of reality so consistent, so radical, it's like it was a fundamental truth just waiting for us, for modern science, to finally give it a name. So let's just start with a huge question. What if the most brilliant minds throughout history, we're talking mystics, philosophers, even so-called heretics, what if they were all tapping into the exact same deep understanding of the cosmos? What if they were all describing a single unified reality, but the vocabulary, the scientific language to explain it just didn't exist yet?
This sets us up for a fascinating historical detective story, a kind of cosmic puzzle. We're going to follow this persistent pattern of insight that just keeps popping up in completely separate cultures in different eras, all pointing toward one mind-blowing conclusion.
And here's the core evidence for our puzzle. You have thinkers separated by centuries, by entire continents, using totally different languages, and yet they all land on a remarkably similar description of reality. In ancient India, they called it Brahman. In ancient Greece, it was the Logos. In 17th century Amsterdam, it was the one substance. The words were different, sure, but the vision? It was the same, a single, unified, and fundamentally conscious reality.
Okay, let's start digging into the clues. And we're going way back to the most ancient insights we have. These are these beautiful, poetic, but also deeply metaphysical glimpses from the early Greeks and the Vedic sages of India.
Now, when the Greek philosopher Heraclitus said this, he wasn't just being poetic. He was making an absolutely radical claim about reality itself. He was saying reality isn't made of static things that change. No, reality is the process of change itself. In his view, there are no nouns, only verbs. The universe isn't a collection of objects. It's one single, constant, dynamic flow.
But, and this is the key, for Heraclitus, this constant flow wasn't just chaos. He said it was all governed by something he called the Logos, an underlying order, a deep, rational structure inside the transformation. It's almost like he was describing the self-organizing principles of a dynamic field, a hidden pattern within the flux.
Now get this, 1,000 years earlier, on the other side of the world, in the Indus Valley, the Vedic rishis had an incredibly similar vision. They called this single underlying reality Brahman. And for them, Brahman wasn't just existence, which they called Sat, it was also Chit, which means consciousness, and Ananda, bliss. So from this ancient perspective, consciousness isn't some random accident of matter, it's a fundamental quality of reality itself.
Now you might think this is all just abstract philosophy, but this vision of a unified conscious reality, well, it was dangerous, like really dangerous. So let's look at the thinkers who grasped this unity and paid a huge price for it, because their vision flew directly in the face of the established order.
Let's jump ahead to the 17th century and meet Baruch Spinoza. He proposed something stunning, that there is only one substance in the entire universe, and what we call matter, or what he called extension, and what we call consciousness, his thought, are not two separate things. Nope, they are just two different attributes, two different ways of looking at the very same underlying reality.
And the implication of this was a bombshell. Spinoza famously equated this one substance with God or nature. He wasn't saying God was in everything, he was saying God was everything. This idea completely removes the need for a church or a priest to connect you to some distant, separate creator. And for that heresy, he was excommunicated and cast out by his own community.
And if you think Spinoza had it rough, decades before him, Giordano Bruno took this idea of divine immanence even further. He imagined an infinite universe with countless worlds, all of them divine, all of them expressions of a single reality. For this vision, which completely tore down the church's worldview, the Inquisition burned him alive at the stake. He's really the ultimate martyr for this idea of unity.
Okay, so as we move closer to our own time, the language used to describe this unified reality starts to shift. It gets a lot closer to what we might call scientific. We can really see this in two key thinkers who started building a bridge from ancient mystical insight to a more modern, analytical way of thinking.
First up is the American philosopher and psychologist William James. He suggested that the most fundamental level of reality is something he called pure experience. This is the raw flow of existence before our minds chop it all up into me over here and the world over there. It's a single, unbroken field from which both mind and matter get built. I mean, it's an almost perfect description of what a physicist would call a quantum field of pure potential before it's observed.
And then you have Alfred North Whitehead, a brilliant mathematician who turned to philosophy. He argued that the universe isn't made of static things, but of dynamic processes he called actual occasions. Reality is just a series of events, not a collection of objects. This lines up perfectly with modern physics, where particles aren't seen as tiny solid balls, but as excitations or events happening within a field.
So you see the pattern, right? All these incredible minds all circling the same idea, but they were all missing one crucial thing, the right words. And now we get to the climax of our story. This is the moment where modern physics finally shows up and provides the language to name what these thinkers had been seeing all along.
And this timeline right here shows you exactly why they couldn't name it. The concept of the field as the fundamental stuff of reality is incredibly recent. It really kicks off with Maxwell's equations in 1865, then gets confirmed in a huge way by quantum mechanics in the 1920s, which showed us that reality is fundamentally made of fields, not solid little bits of matter. Spinoza and Heraclitus were centuries too early for the party.
And here it is. This is the grand synthesis, the moment it all clicks into place. Just look at how beautifully these concepts line up. Heraclitus' logos, that's field dynamics. Spinoza's one substance in the Vedic Brahman, they're perfect descriptions of a unified field. William James's pure experience, that's the field in a state of pure potential, what physicists call superposition. They were all describing the same thing, just with the language available to them at the time.
But here's a part that is it's a kind of cosmic irony that'll give you goosebumps. These thinkers were physically interacting with the very field they were trying to describe. Spinoza spent his days grinding lenses, literally manipulating light, electromagnetic radiation. Bruno was killed by fire, intense EM radiation. They were touching the answer, but the scientific concept that could connect their physical world to their philosophical vision just hadn't been built yet.
Okay, so what? Why does any of this matter to us, right here, right now? Well, this isn't just a cool history lesson. The implications of this convergence of ancient wisdom and modern physics are staggering, and they speak directly to who we are and what our place in the cosmos is.
When you really grasp this, your entire perspective shifts. We go from a view of separation and duality to one of fundamental unity. Consciousness is no longer some weird accidental byproduct of complicated brain chemistry. It's fundamental to the universe. And the cosmos is no longer just a random, meaningless machine, but a universe that is in the process of waking up and recognizing itself.
And this, right here, this changes everything about who you think you are. You are not a fragile, isolated little being living in a vast, cold universe. You are that universe. You're the whole field, temporarily localized into a pattern that has become complex enough to be aware of itself. You are the cosmos looking back at itself through your eyes.
And we can end with this profound 3,000-year-old statement from the Upanishads, Tat Twam Asi. It means, thou art that. The ultimate reality you've been searching for out there isn't separate from you. You are it. The great mystery of the cosmos and the deep mystery of your own consciousness are, in the end, the very same mystery.